Welcome to Based on True, where real stories reveal the quiet power of human choices. If you enjoy true-to-life tales about love, betrayal, and what comes after, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It really helps the channel grow. In today's video, you'll hear two very different stories about betrayal and consequence. The first, about a woman who left her husband of nearly 30 years, only to discover that his silence hid a plan far colder than anger. The second, about someone who kept forgiving, until forgiveness turned into another kind of prison.
A story of love, betrayal, and an unexpected turn that forever altered the course of my 28-year marriage. For 15 months, my wife carried on a secret affair, with plans to start a family with her boyfriend. The twist, I was aware of it all along. In this video, I'll walk you through the heart-wrenching details of how this unfolded and how, in the end, deception taught a harsh lesson. Stay tuned as we explore a journey of resilience, self-discovery, and the consequences of unfaithfulness. Let's dive into this deeply personal chapter of my life. I'm torn about whether I can bring myself to cause the pain I know I'm about to inflict on an innocent party who doesn't deserve what's about to happen. In the next half hour or so, however, as I gaze at the large, meticulously framed photograph of me and Dave on our wedding day hanging above the mantel, my tearless eyes reflect the emotional toll of my mostly happy 28-year marriage. Those tears were shed during the internal debate on whether to proceed with this conversation. The verdict is yes, but I'm still resisting the urge to flee. Dave is going to be devastated. Seated beside me on the sofa, John gives my hand a reassuring squeeze, boosting my courage. I glance sideways at him and smile in gratitude. Over the 15 months of our affair, I've gradually fallen in love with him, and I'm aware that every bit of love I've given him has been taken directly from Dave. The moment it felt like cheating on John to make love to my husband marked the beginning of preparations for this meeting. I'm not looking forward to it, but I anticipate relief afterward. I'm going to hurt Dave profoundly, unavoidable as it may be. Yet once it's over, I can end the charade pretending that I'm as deeply in love with Dave as he clearly is with me, pretending to go out with my girlfriends, on work trips, clothes shopping, all the while meeting up with John. It's incredibly stressful and a significant factor in the worry lines increasingly visible on my face each morning. I look forward to the release. I glance at the bookcase, ensuring the baseball bat I discreetly placed there earlier is still in position. Dave's stance on fidelity is well known to me since the kids left home. He's been engrossed in reading short stories, detailing the repercussions faced by cheating wives. Some of these stories shocked me, with the husband's intense reactions making the wives pay a heaviest price for their actions. When I inquired about it, he casually mentioned colleagues who went through upheavals after sharing similar stories. Dave, by nature, isn't a violent man, but when confronted by the person jeopardizing his happiness and future, he might make an exception. With a physical stature surpassing John's, inside fitness and strength, and a less sensitive demeanor, Dave holds a prominent position in a biomedical company, presenting a stark contrast to John, who is an artist, despite any provocation. I'm confident Dave won't physically harm me, allowing me to keep him at a distance so John can escape. As I hear Dave's car pull into the driveway, my stomach churns and my heart pounds. I swallow, needing to steel myself for what comes next. Deep breath. I wonder about his thoughts on the unfamiliar car. John's car. I sense that Dave must have read a similar scenario in a cheating story. The first one I ever read. My heart rate increases. I must stay calm. Dave walks in, eyeing John with curiosity. I stay seated, avoiding kissing Dave in front of John. Dave notices my omission and approaches with an outstretched hand. He introduces himself as Dave, and John hesitates before a brief handshake. Dave discreetly rubs his hand on his pants. A gesture I recognize after so many years. John retreats to the couch. Dave grabs a beer, sits opposite us, takes a pull, placing the can on the coffee table alongside our glass mugs. The tension makes my nerves feel on the verge of snapping, like a branch pushed beyond its limit. I can't meet Dave's questioning gaze. Instead, my eyes flit lower to his casual attire. When did he start coming home dressed so casually? I shake off inane questions about clothing. Now is the moment I've been dreading. Here. I will shatter the soul of an outstanding community member. Terrific father, provider, and nearly perfect husband. The first love of my life, but not the last. I admit that we need to talk. Dave responds with a neutral, unreadable expression. As expected in pressure situations, he remains coldly analytical, thinking on his feet better than I do, despite preparing for every angle. My nerves betray me. I say to Dave that I want him to know he's done absolutely nothing wrong. My voice is shaky as I clear my throat. Still unable to meet his eyes throughout all the years we've been together. My friends have been envious of our marriage. It should be acknowledged that Dave has been an exceptional husband. I laugh, but Dave doesn't reciprocate with a smile, attempting to cushion the imminent blow. I confess my apprehension about discussing this with some friends, concerned they might not forgive me for causing Dave pain. As I focus my gaze over his shoulder, I discern no hint of a smile or softening in Dave's features. His lips move, yet he appears like a statue. He questions whether I'm going to hurt him. The words, though simple, are compelling, drawing my gaze to his. I finally meet his eyes, but his stare remains firm and unyielding. As if scrutinizing something on a microscope slide, it breaks the spell, making me look away, feeling unnerved. I express my regret to Dave, explaining that I have fallen out of love with him and fallen in love with John. I aim to minimize the hurt as much as possible. But I need a divorce so John and I can be together. Pausing at this juncture now that the words are spoken, I try to discern any turmoil behind his mask, expecting to see a throbbing at his temple. Wet eyes, tightly drawn lips, his fists clenching, yet there's nothing. His reaction, or rather, his lack of it, terrifies me. I can't help but glance at the baseball bat. The silence between us is agonizing, unbearable. I have to fill it. My carefully prepared speech is a thing of the past. I explain that I didn't want to hurt him until I absolutely had to. Hope he sees that John and I have been incredibly careful, not wanting him to find out until it was absolutely necessary, which is now, that meant limiting our time together. My concern for him, for his feelings, significantly restricted the occasions John and I could be together. Be together, I repeat quietly. I can't respond. I can't meet his gaze. I have no more lies left in me. I've exhausted them all. I can't lie to this man. Not anymore. I respect him too much. But I had hoped he wouldn't ask. Wouldn't be so direct. His words make it all seem sordid. My lack of response is all the confirmation Dave needs. There doesn't seem to be anything left to say. Or at any point in apologizing again. I'm willing to hurt Dave, I know it. He knows it. The room's atmosphere is dreadful, and I yearn to escape. The tension is nearly unbearable, and my nerves are so tightly strung that my skin prickles uncomfortably. While Dave isn't outwardly screaming in pain, I know him well enough to sense the internal turmoil anxiously. I wonder which of my anticipated responses from him will unfold. Regardless, I know it will be terrible. Something must break through for me to start my life with John. For what feels like an eternity. Dave stares at me until he finally acknowledges, okay. Chelsea. My response is automatic and slips out before I can edit it. I ask him what he means by okay. I assume he wants a divorce so he can marry someone else. His tone remains patient. His expression, bland and neutral. I sit back, too stunned to speak. This isn't one of the expected reactions. It's unexpected, out of left field. Like a kick, I feel insulted. There are no questions, no accusations, no raised voice, no red face or tears. After 28 years together, My husband isn't going to spend even 5 minutes questioning me. After months of agonizing over my affair with John, and sleepless nights dreading this moment, I've been discarded in under 10 minutes, all without apparent emotion. I realize I need to say something, but I must be careful. I consider how to break through Dave's reserve without losing John. Finally, I bring up the fact that after all our years together, he's willing to just walk away. Dave questions why I wouldn't agree to part ways. Asserting that I've already emotionally left him, he wonders about the point of fighting and suggests preserving our fond memories. By going separate ways, it's an answer, though not the one I was hoping for before. I can pose another question, Dave continues, anticipating that I have papers for him to sign. Indeed, I have a signed and notarized divorce petition, but it's in John's car. We didn't anticipate progressing beyond the expected yelling, screaming, and tears tonight, let alone Dave examining or signing any papers before I can rise to retrieve the documents. John stands and exits. I observe him, sensing the tension affecting him as well. Amid the awkward silence that follows his departure, I extend my apologies to Dave, genuinely regretting the pain I've caused him. Dave rises, and my eyes involuntarily flicker toward the bat. He brushes off my apologies, insisting that true remorse would have prevented the whole situation. Heading to the kitchen for another beer, he effectively shuts down the conversation. John returns with the manila envelope. Holding it at waist height, Dave takes 2 swift steps toward him. My heart goes out to John as he steps backward, stumbling over his feet, colliding with the couch's edge, and landing with a soft thud. Holding the envelope now, Dave glances at me, his face flushed, realizing he's not presenting himself in the best light. I try to convey through my eyes that it doesn't matter that I still love him. Turning to Dave, who watches me with an indifferent expression. I still can't read his thoughts, and I'm not entirely sure he won't attack John. I inform Dave that Mary is aware of our presence, and if she doesn't hear from us by 8, I instructed her to call the police. I add that if he wants someone to blame, he should blame me instead of directing any anger toward John. In response, Dave expresses that he does blame me, highlighting that I made numerous promises to him all those years ago, not John. He assures me he doesn't want John to suffer anymore than he's already going to. Question Dave about why John would suffer and what he means by that. Dave gives me a look, a kinder, more patient version, the kind he uses when explaining something I may not fully understand. He elaborates that, being a woman of 50, I'm past the age of giving John children, making him go childless, a genetic dead end. There is no worse punishment for a man than never experiencing the joy of witnessing a child's first steps, hearing them say daddy for the first time. He goes on to describe how John will miss out on the typical experiences, teaching a child to catch a ball, ride a bike, helping with homework, teaching them to drive. Dave emphasizes that John will never be a hero to his daughter or a role model. For his son, he speculates that our kids will likely want nothing to do with John once they discover what the two of us did. His words cause my blood to turn to ice. I shiver, realizing I haven't considered the impact on the kids amidst the turmoil of my affair and the end of my marriage. I attempt to reassure Dave, telling him he doesn't have to tell them. Dave questions if I want him to lie to the kids as I lied to him. I hang my head, but he continues, emphasizing that John will marry someone he can never fully trust, someone capable of hurting him while professing love, someone skilled at hiding abhorrent behavior with acting skills. Dave prompts me to think about how John will feel the first time I inform him that I'm working late, going out with friends, or using the same excuses I used with Dave to spend time with John, shifting focus to me. Dave speculates about the future. When my looks start to fade in another 5 years while John remains a trim 40-year-old, he questions whether John will hesitate to leave me. Having seen all my flaws, Dave mentions my crankiness due to PM, my loud snoring, my deep sleep, and other habits that John will soon discover. Offended, I leap to my feet, ready to retaliate. claiming that I'm not the only one who snores and pointing out my ability to color coordinate. I start to list Dave's faults, but a gasp from John stops me. His expression shows that. Dave's points are resonating. I realize I need to get John out of here. Dave shrugs while I collapse back onto the couch. Shocked and filled with anger and offense, is this truly what he thinks of me? Has he harbored these thoughts throughout all these years? I have so much I want to say. After months of doing my utmost to keep my affair secret, to protect Dave, I now have an overwhelming desire to make him pay for not caring, for discarding me so easily, but the words won't come. They fail me as I watch Dave take a swig of his beer before tearing open the envelope. I look down at my hands. Avoiding John's gaze, I can only hope he's not looking at me either. Dave mutters about half the value of the house, looking up at me. He disputes the idea, asserting that it was his before he even met me. Dave suggests I might get away with half the bank account, but there may not be as much in there as I think. He acknowledges the likelihood of splitting the difference in our retirement accounts at the date of separation, but mentions I won't receive anything until he retires in 17 years. As he reads the rest of the document, he falls silent. I contemplate whether John's love for me can overcome the fact that we won't have the financial stability we thought we'd have. As I had assured him, Dave's words echo in my mind about the difference between an artist and a pizza. What's the difference between an artist and a pizza? He had once said a pizza can feed a family. The silence drags on, feeling interminable. Finally, Dave looks up and comments that everything seems reasonable except for the house. Anticipating that my lawyer will charge me thousands to fight that, he then shifts focus to the immediate future. Wondering what we do now, he suggests I get a lawyer. He contemplates packing a few things, but I interject, expressing my desire for him to leave right away. Dave considers alternatives, suggesting he could drop my belongings off at John's place next weekend. He intends to change the locks in 2 days. Making it inconvenient for me to return, he suggests that if I've forgotten anything, I can email him. Dave asserts that I can take all the pictures off the walls, excluding those of the kids. As we'll divide those, he stresses his preference for no reminders of me, except for the cruise photo from last year, which I can't keep. I wonder what makes that particular picture so special. It was taken about 3 months into my affair with John, during a surprise Caribbean cruise Dave arranged. At that point, I still enjoyed being with my husband, and the photo captures a woman smiling after much love. I'm puzzled about why. Dave wants to keep just that one of us while I'm contemplating this. Dave turns directly to John and addresses him for the first time. He asks about John's current address, initially mentioning 42 Belmont and then correcting himself. Noting that John moved a few months ago to 58 Gravilla, the revelation leaves me shocked. Dave knew about John's new address. Not only that, he's known for at least 4 months. I grapple with the realization, questioning when and how he found out. We've been so careful, and I can't fathom how I missed any signs. I replay scenes of dinners, closeness, gifts, date nights, birthdays, our anniversary, mornings, nights, days, and time with our children, yet in not one scene could I detect a change in Dave. I look at him as if seeing him for the first time. This is the man I've spent my entire adult life with, the man who held my hand while I gave birth to our children, the man I nursed through real influenza, the kind that leaves you unable to lift your head, the man who nursed me through morning sickness, who cared during emergencies, the man I should know as well as the back of my hand, the man whose every change I should notice, and yet none. There's been none. I'm sure of it. I stare at him, marveling. A stranger, my husband of 28 years, is a stranger to me. I thought myself clever, careful, giving nothing away, such a good actress. But Dave is better, so much better. He knew and hid his knowledge from me. How could he? How could he hide it so well? If he truly loved me, he shouldn't have been able to. The thought triggers heat. I don't want to explore the logic of it. Had I truly loved him, would I have been able to hide it so well? But clearly, I didn't hide it well. Dave knew. had known for months. I look at him, but not as he is now. I see him from just 2 weeks ago. Undressing me, gentle, loving, cherishing, a lie he knew. I think about how hard I'd worked to hide my guilt, how careful I'd been to ensure my expression was loving and responsive. I contemplate the tears I suppressed, silently apologizing to John while pretending to desire intimacy with Dave, the stress, the battle against the urge to flee, the shame when my body betrayed my heart and climaxed. I had to resist leaping from the bed afterward, wanting to wash Dave's scent off me. After the act, I lay beside him sleepless. While he slept peacefully, apologetic to both men I'd lied to and betrayed. I reflect on the days and nights where similar scenes played out, my heart pounding not from love or lust, but from fear of being caught, anxiety over lies, stress over my performance, and the thought of my betrayal being exposed, all for nothing. Dave had known for months I'd been scared, editing every word, conscious of every facial expression, nerves stretched to their limit, exhausted from hiding my betrayal. All for nothing. Did he love me at all? Ever? How long has he been pretending? A month? For 15, 28 years? All those things he said to John, all those awful things, is that what he truly thinks of me? I look at him and I want to cry. He's dry, dash-eyed. It's me fighting tears, me nauseous from rage and rejection. I for the glass of Chardonnay, wanting to douse the flames and rinse the bitterness from my mouth. It tastes sour. Dave removes the glass of wine from my hand, holding Gon's half-finished glass in the other. He turns and walks toward the kitchen, emphasizing the shift from ours to his kitchen. Over his shoulder, mentioning that John is already at his car, the dismissal is evident. I turn my head to find that John has indeed left the room. He didn't wait for me. And we won't be walking out together 4 years later, closing the magazine. I realize I can't recall a single article or ad, probably no loss. The content is likely outdated. Checking the cover, I confirm the magazine is 3 years old. Surely a doctor's office is large and well patronized, as this one can afford current magazines. As I return it to the stack and select another, I continue my next round of board flicking, waiting for my name to be called. When I hear Mrs. Smith, don't react immediately. It takes a repetition for me to startle. Even after 4 years, I'm not used to being called Mrs. Smith instead of Mrs. Brown. I rise, sling my bag onto my shoulder, and head down the corridor to my doctor's room. The doctor greets me, and I explain that I've come to have my implanton replaced after 5 years. He acknowledges this, noting it's in my appointment notes. It suggests I talk to my husband about sharing the responsibility, perhaps a vasectomy. He smiles, and I return the smile, responding, maybe next time. I keep my face friendly and neutral, but inside I feel smug. My arguments with John about him having a vasectomy have been a battle of wills for months. Why? Should I continue to chemically poison my body when he can undergo a simple procedure, not even an operation, done right here in the clinic? Unlike my alternative, having my tubes tied, something I've pointed out too. John more than once. During our last argument over the issue, I remembered he said he'd had the mumps as a child. I asked him to get his seed fluid tested, thinking I could still win our standoff and go off birth control. If the test came up with a low count, the stubborn man refused to get tested. But I'm stubborn too, while still churning over his harsh words. I secretly salvaged some of his seed and sent it off for testing. Yes, stored it correctly. It turns out John doesn't just have a low count, he's sterile. No seed at all, initially flush with victory. I intended to confront him with the results, but then common sense prevailed. I wanted a happy husband again, not a sparring partner. I wanted lovemaking, not just release. Somewhere, I remembered the convenience of not having monthly bleeds. So, replacement implant it is after all. It won't be forever. Dr. Jones says something, and I totally miss it. I apologize and ask him to repeat. He suggests swapping my implanton for the new type of contraceptive implant, explaining it's rather fantastic. Not only does it offer contraception, but it also records my pulse and other diagnostics for medical use. If I come in feeling unwell, I can pause by a scanner. And it downloads information about my internal state since my last visit. Real space. Stuff. Wow, I laugh. It sounds like something out of Star Trek. What about side effects? I'm not going to end up the size of a barn or grow whiskers, am I? He chuckles. Nothing like that. Less disruptive than implantin, but with the same benefits, reducing or stopping heavy bleeding. Okay, sounds good. Dr. Jones turns to his monitor and clicks one of the icons. Then, frowning, rubs his neck. What the? I look at him, then at the screen, wondering at his tone. How long did you say you've had your implant in? He asks, turning toward me. 5 years? How is that possible? Are you certain? It appears you already have a Vanguardian implanted, all your medical information just downloaded. Confused. I ask what he means. He explains that I must have been in within the last 18 months. Since that's how long these have been approved and available, I protest, saying I haven't been to a doctor in over 2 years. He turns back to the screen, and even in profile, I can see he's gone pale. He mentions there's information going back for years, including WAV files, audio recordings. He speculates there must be a glitch, suggesting someone else's Vanguardian might have been accidentally linked to my card, but the timeline doesn't add up, and he's perplexed by the inclusion of a Google map with a flag, marking the clinic to resolve the mix-up. He suggests examining my implant. My head spins as I move to the bench and lie down. I turn away, squeamish about needles. It's definitely a Vanguardian, he says, and I hear the confusion in his voice. It's the same as the ones we implant, except a smidge longer and wider. I swivel my head and look at the doctor. Comparing my implant with the image on the screen, my eyes are drawn to the top of the page, Vanguardian. Seeing it written jogs a memory. I know that name. That was someone's pseudonym. On the amateur writing site where Dave used to read stories about cheating wives, a coincidence? The rest of my appointment passes in a blur. We'll sort this out, Mrs. Smith. Dr. Jones says, there has to be some kind of crossed signal in your old implant, or maybe you were part of a test group. I'll get our tech guys on Vanguardian and be in touch. I nod and walk back to the reception area. I pay my bill and head to my car. With my hands on the wheel, snatches of conversations from the past spill into my already overloaded mind. There's a clause in Dave's old work contract stating that the company owns all his research and inventions. Even if he works on them at home, he can't patent anything for at least 12 months after resigning. Dave's favorite part of his job was research and innovation. That was his passion in my mind's eye. I see him seated on the couch with John and me. I envision his faded jeans and casual polo shirt. I recall the shock of our meager savings when we divided assets, and his insistence on keeping the framed photo from the Caribbean cruise. Taken 3 months into my affair with John, stunned, my hands dropped to my lap. I had the implant inserted weeks before that cruise, at Dave's suggestion, to avoid inconvenient monthly disruptions during our vacation. I had felt touched to have such a considerate husband. It was a different type of implant from my previous one. I changed doctors and clinics after separating from Dave because our old doctor, Dr. Black, was a friend of his father. The man who inspired Dave to enter medical research. Continuing with Dr. Black would have been awkward. Dave knew about John. He must have known from the start. Somehow, he convinced Dr. Black to implant a device he had developed, a Vanguardian. Mine had a GPS locator and the ability to record voice files. It seems illegal. I don't recall consenting. But I signed something regardless. I should sue Dr. Black, but he's retired and now living in Brazil with his much younger wife. The question arises, can he face extradition from Brazil? Similar to those old war criminals who sought refuge there after World War II, Brazil has no extradition treaties for such cases. Another puzzle forms as I think about the implants. Purpose, a GPS tracker and recorder? Surely that wasn't meant just to follow me, the realization dawns. Military applications. Yes, the military would find such technology valuable. I recall Dave's work on a project developing a device for diabetic soldiers, A system that regulated blood sugar without daily injections. In that context, a GPS locator and recorder would be a logical extension. Various scenarios and potential. Military uses swirl in my mind. It becomes clear that around the time of our cruise, or shortly after, Dave must have resigned from his job. This revelation explains the dwindling state of our savings, which I had never monitored closely. Dave handled the bills, and I simply used my credit card. Oblivious to our financial situation, could that cruise photo be a keepsake commemorating his resignation? After all, Dave personally arranged its framing. Could it have been the scanner for the implant? Surely not. But deep inside, I know. That's exactly what it was. That's why he suggested hanging it in the hall by the coat rack. And why he opposed me taking it after the divorce. He knew I might reframe it or give it to the kids, who could have discovered its true purpose. The enormity of how I've been deceived leaves me stunned. It all seems unbelievable, like something from a Jason Bourne or James Bond movie, yet my gut insists it's true. It feels like a vice tightening around my chest, making it hard to breathe. No wonder he didn't seek revenge during the divorce. He'd already done it, at least financially, and I can't do anything about it. Dr. Black is beyond reach, and Dave, being Dave, probably secured my signature on a consent form. To make matters worse, it's been almost 4 years since the divorce. While I'll receive a portion of his retirement funds, I suspect the millions he earns from Vanguardian are funneled through corporations, and I'll never see a penny. I touch my arm where the new implant lies. I can't even confide in John. Our relationship is already shaky, without revealing how thoroughly my ex-husband deceived me. Now, Dave lives in the Algarve. The kids rave about his beachfront villa. Though we rarely talk these days, I pull into the driveway of the small, rundown cottage I share with John. I can't recall the trip home. I hope I didn't run any red lights. The last thing I need on top of today's revelations is a traffic fine on autopilot. I unlock the door and enter the lounge. John is on the couch. Chelsea, we have to talk. Only then do I notice he's holding hands with a woman Woe looks no older than 30, and she's undeniably pregnant. She doesn't have much time left. 2 glasses of Chardonnay sit on the table in front of them. Second story. My boyfriend. Of 4 years, cheated many times, and now he's found out about an old friend of mine and wants nothing to do with me anymore. When I went to jail, my boyfriend was everything to me. We had a great bond and friendship inside our relationship, but he cheated on me a lot. I'm a chubby girl, but he's in great shape with a handsome face. He's cheated on me with many women, including his child's mother, who became pregnant within a year of us dating. When he told me about the pregnancy, I felt hopeless. I broke up with him and spent a lot of time drinking with coworkers. One coworker grew fond of me, but I was always honest about being in a relationship. My ex stayed in contact, but I didn't let things go too far, nor did I hang out with him. His child's mother later had an abortion, but that didn't stop him from sleeping with her again. I gave him space. He kept calling and texting, wanting us to be together. The coworker eventually asked me out. I went on 2 dates with him, but I told my ex about only one, and he lost it. He forgave me, but retaliated by being with another woman. My ex once told me I'd restored his belief in love, so my betrayal hurt him deeply. I ended things with the coworker, thanked him for his kindness, and paid for our second date myself. He wasn't very nice after that, so I cut ties and quit my job soon after. Months later, my landlord kicked out my roommates because one had fled without paying rent. Suddenly, I had nowhere to go. My ex and I were back together then, but he didn't offer me a place to stay. It was either move across the country, my godmother rent a room in one of the most dangerous cities in my state. I said goodbye to him. Planning to go to Florida, he sent me listings of places to live, but I secretly hoped he'd ask me to stay with him. A week after I'd signed the lease and paid my deposit, he finally offered me a place to stay. Too late. I remembered that my old coworker had an aunt with a vacant apartment. I messaged him after more than a year of no contact, and he was kind. I moved in. I told my ex about the new place, but not how I got it. The coworker assumed I was single. He'd bring me fruit, offer to fix things. Always finding excuses to come by. His aunt told me he'd never visited his grandfather downstairs until I moved in. I told him to stop bringing things, to stop flirting, that I was still in a relationship. He didn't take it well. He began acting hostile, even cruel. Then I lost hours at work and fell behind on rent. I asked him to speak to his aunt, explaining that I was doing Uber Eats to make up extra money, but it wasn't enough last weekend. I was jailed for 5 days for a suspended license. My ex was there for me the whole time. Meanwhile, the coworker told my cousin I was missing Becco's. I'd warned him. I had a warrant and might not make rent. He also told people I was his girlfriend. When I confronted him, he laughed and said he'd been drunk. My cousin inadvertently told my ex about this man, the one who had invited me out for Halloween one year. That revelation enraged my ex. He accused me of cheating. I explained there had been no intimacy. I'd simply believed our relationship was over after his other girlfriend's pregnancy, but he didn't believe me. He called me a liar and refused to speak to me. Worse, he claimed I'd given him an STD, though I know it was the opposite. His first test came back negative, but later it turned positive, feeling lost. I'm torn between guilt and disbelief. I never cheated. I only tried to move on during our break, then came back to him despite his infidelities. Now, he says it's easier to hate me than to let me go. He mocks me, saying I stayed because I couldn't find someone better looking. Despite being plus size, I'm confident in my appearance. I've always attracted attention, but the situation has left me devastated and unsure how to go on. He was my best friend. He tells me he still loves me, but he'll never be with me again. Then he laughs, saying he messed with a dirty woman. Because of the positive test results, I just can't deal with all this bad luck right now.
Thank you for watching. Which story resonated with you more? The quiet, calculated revenge or the endless cycle of love and pain? Do you think betrayal ever truly ends, or does it just change its form? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective. If this video made you think or feel something, please subscribe and tap like. It helps more people discover these true relationship stories.